for tuning in to another one of our favorite episodes, Raised by Fire. I'm here with my daughters, and I can't wait for this next episode. As you probably are aware, we're missing a cast member. Yes, Lucy was not able to make it. And probably in the future, we'll probably be doing a little more of that. Hopefully not. But anyways, she will be greatly missed. We miss you, sweetheart. We're going to do our best to carry on the torch. Don't laugh, girl. Anyways, so what I was thinking was, I'm going to give you a little backstory, and then you girls can tell me. So this weekend, I went to a wedding, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But first I wanted to mention something that was pretty cool that happened. When I was driving home, I got a phone call from one of my sons, and we were just, shooting the breeze and visiting and whatever. And then he says, Mom, I met up with my uncle so-and-so. I guess they had like a golf tournament, and it was like a big event here in the Twin Cities. And I think there was over like 60 family members and cousins and whoever all that came in for this tournament. And he met up with one of my brothers. And it was just so touching because he was like kind of telling me, and, he's been going through, I guess, maturing. You go through life, you raise your kids, and now your kids are starting to, get old enough to date and move on, and you start seeing relationships a little different. So he met up with my one of my brothers, who I've been estranged with for years, and I don't want to mention the names due to probably misunderstanding on his part, because I'm a saint. I'm kidding, I'm just kidding you. But anyways, and he's telling me that they were talking about some incidents that they had like 20 years ago, and kind of like talking it out, like, why did you do that, Uncle so-and-so? That really hurt my feelings, or whatever it was. And then the uncle's like, oh my goodness, I don't even know what I was thinking then, and I so apologize. And they were like mending fences, right? And that really warmed my heart, and you think like, oh, there's just so many family members. Does it really matter if some don't get along or some are not really close? And I'm not really close to all my family members due to getting married real young and then moving away. But anyways, so alcohol was involved, and that doesn't really matter. And to me, it doesn't matter, because if someone's drunk and they tell you they hate you or they love you, either one of those are true. If they love you, they're not going to say, oh, I hate you, or vice versa. So I know that they were drinking and having a good time on the golf course or whatever it was. And he said, tell your mom, he used the F word, tell your mom that the F word, love her. And I was just like so shocked when my son is telling me that this brother who wrote me off probably 20 years ago is telling my son that the F word, loves me. And I silence on the phone, and then I tell my son, I said, this is the best news I've ever heard. And he was kind of shocked. Like, it's not going to change our relationship. I'm not going to be able to really see him because we live so far apart. We didn't raise our kids together. We don't believe the same, or whatever it is. And then he said it again. No, Mom, but he said it again. All I know is I effing love your mom. And I tell you, all day long, it's just been like, it's so doggone beautiful to have, your family, regardless what you go through in your life, like hardships or disagreements. I mean, how many of us don't have friends or people that we know that are telling you, oh, my mom and I, we don't see eye to eye, or a dad or an uncle or brother or aunt or whoever. And in my mind, I had thought this family member had written me off due to the fact that I got divorced and I left the cult. That is what I did that caused the separation between him and I. It wasn't that he and I ever had a problem, but I got divorced and I left the cult, and therefore I lost him, the relationship with him. And not only lost the relationship, he was very upset with me for a while. But either way, it's not here nor there. But the fact that all these years later, and you guys know the story without mentioning his name, all these years later, to know that he still freaking loves me. I don't know, just all day long, it's just like, not that I won't get emotional, but I can feel it in my heart, like, it so matters.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm bringing up this topic, or kind of want to have this discussion with you girls, is because, of course, you guys are, my daughters, or my kids, I can say, are really close, but just thinking about family and how, like, look at your children, that are raising kids, and you look at your children, and that's what we were talking about a few minutes ago. He said, oh, well, Mom, whatever you're saying. I said, yeah, but I feel these feelings about this. Yeah, but there's nothing you can do. I know, but I still feel this way. So that's kind of what I want to talk about, is like family. Like, I don't know. I was just at this wedding. So I went to my husband has one brother, and his baby got married. And when we were there, I really felt a sense of belonging, like they were part of my family. You know, of course, Rick and I are a newer relationship, and I'm not the mother of his children, and obviously he's not the father of my children. So we don't have that binds us, and all those memories of raising our kids together, but you know, I am family. Anyways, going there, and just a sense of renewed closeness that I feel like there's something to be said about family, regardless if you're best friends, you get along, you don't get along, or whatever. So I kind of wanted to just talk like, it doesn't have to be personal. It can be like just kind of talking a little bit more about what we've, you know, just different stories. That we can keep people's names anonymous, which we prefer to do that, but more like the experience of having family. And it's not always a walk in the park. Like, we can sit on this camera right here and share our story with our listeners and pour our hearts out here to you, but this is not always pretty. They're beautiful, but this is not always pretty. And, you know, they've helped raise me. Of course, I've raised them. Good, bad, and ugly. I think on one of our episodes a while back, we were just reminiscing some stuff, like, and you saw me at my worst, or something like that was said, you know, and you still love me, or whatever. In fact, I handed my book to my sweetheart's son. And when he went up to hug me and thank me for the book, I kind of whispered in his ear, I says, now you have my book. And I said, well, you still love me after you know all about me. And he just kind of laughed. But there was that little sense, like, you're going to see that I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
You know? So that's kind of what was on my heart. And I just kind of wanted to share that with everybody. So quiet and silent, like, oh my goodness. But it's a big thing. Families make our communities make our, you know, our cities and our countries and the world. And I mean, you see it everywhere, the closeness of brothers and sisters and sisters and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles and nephews and nieces and all that. And to me, I guess it was going to be part of our show today, because what a coincidence. And you know the uncle I'm talking about. It was the furthest thing. I don't think it was on my list at all. It wasn't even in my prayers. Unfortunately, I never even prayed that someday that we would be able to rekindle that. But just to hear that he freaking loves me. And then my son says, oh, but, you know, he was drinking. I said, I don't care. He didn't say, he could have said, he could have said he hated me, but he didn't. He said, he said the F word, so that's even stronger. You know how that is. And anyways, I mean, you girls, like, and I would like to talk about this, and it's going to be about probably vulnerable to me, but I still want to talk about this. You saw me kind of raise you girls, or my children, without my family, without my brothers, without my sisters to a certain degree, you know? And I know through the last maybe 15, 20 years, we've had several conversations, and I've had different daughters and different sons tell me, I just never seen you as a sister, Mom. Never seen you, you know, as an auntie, because we were never around all these people. And I don't know, I like to hear, how do you guys see that perspective when you got, of course, you know me as your mom, and now all of a sudden you still see this side. I know that sometimes my daughters will, well, maybe not now because they're older, but they would get kind of embarrassed when they see that I tell a dirty joke, or I would go off with my sisters and they find out that we were doing stuff like out there, like, Mom, you? And I think, what? I'm not dead yet, or whatever. But like, I just, you know, I've always been your mom, and I like to believe I've been your hero. Whether it's true or not, don't burst on a bubble. But you know, I'm a human, and I'm full of flaws, and I'm a sister, and I hurt, and I want certain things. And anyways, I just felt passionate about this story because it was so fresh, and I just went and spent time with the family at this beautiful wedding, and their last baby is getting married, and just seeing the dynamics. And I don't know, I'm talking the whole time, but now I'm gonna shush and let you girls kind of, you know, share your thoughts, or what does this bring up in you?
I kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit, what it's bringing up for me, and so questions to you. It sounds like you're kind of shocked of the fact that said uncle says that he loves you and the fact that he actually loves you. The part that I'm seeing in the story, because I know you as my mother and what you've done for me, and I've seen you in business or I've seen you with said uncles and what have you, is that family, it's definitely not easy, right? It's hard even living this life and going through all the ups and downs. And I feel like the thing that's coming through on this story that I'm hearing is that it was a harsh upbringing with this said uncle, right? And like
Right.
you've always, you've done a really beautiful job of doing this, but staying in integrity of who you are and like doing things in a loving way. And so I can just imagine from your perspective, it's like, how could he love me if I, did all these said things?
Right.
But I think from the perspective of being a mother or a sister or just the woman that you are, is that I think that when people are around that and they get a glimpse of that, I think that though, let's say you told them off, I don't know what you exactly did.
No, I never did
But
that.
let's just
I just
say-
got divorced.
Right.
Not even him. I divorced your dad.
But like whatever it is that you're doing, and I think from your perspective, it's like, oh, they must hate me, or however you're perceiving it. I think on the other end, like the way you do things with integrity, that people actually do still really love you, even though in that moment, whatever came up,
That makes sense.
And so that's where my mind starts to go of like, I think it's a reminder to you of like the person you are, even in those moments where it feels like, man, it's my worst. But it's still so beautiful of how you go through those moments, that said worst point or what have you. Because I could even imagine, like, I think about some of your clients that maybe you had to like tell off or something. I don't know.
Or I had to stand up for myself, yeah.
But like, I think that even if you go and talk to them, I think there's still going to be some point of like that they admire you or like have some sort of that towards you, because I think it's how you do things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like that said uncle that still loves you, I think it's because of who you are and how you go through hard things.
Yeah, you
and
don't
how,
really have like regrets.
Yeah, and
You don't treat people.
No.
the
in a
fact
way,
that somebody
yeah.
still could admire you, and even in those moments where you're thinking that was my worst in a way.
Right.
I
Well,
don't
in his,
obviously know
in
all the
his
ins
way,
and
it
outs.
was the worst. I mean, I was the worst. And the only thing that happened is I left the gospel and the principle, and I was a bad influence on
So it
Oh,
all
was
the
different
women
than what he's used
for
to.
leaving. I didn't do anything to him, but because I left the cult and left, then I was a bad influence.
Well, weren't you like one of the first to leave? So it's unknown.
was the
So
first,
of course
yes,
it's
yeah.
unknown. It's scary. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, so
right.
it makes
Yeah, so
sense
in
why
his defense,
you would have some-
that's what I did. He and I
Right.
never had a fallout.
right. It's not like
No,
something
but
personally.
he was very, very angry and
Yeah.
refused to be in family photos if I was in them because I was such a sinner. But I understood in my heart, and it matches what you're saying, that he just didn't understand. And it wasn't my job to get him to understand. My job was to take care of me and my children.
and be your authentic self through
Right,
everything. Going
right.
through divorce and obviously
It was enough.
everything.
It was a lot
Yeah,
of work. I
yeah.
couldn't have done more.
can't.
But it just, I've never fathomed or imagined. For those of you that are listening, by now you probably know that I've written my memoir, and he's in my memoir, which all my mom's children are in my memoir, but I call him by name. And when I read the other day and saw his name there, just with all the other kids, different times when they were born and stuff, because I'm the big sister, it still warmed my heart. It didn't matter what he had done. It just like, that's my baby brother. I remember when he was born. And I still felt that connection, even though that we weren't close. But I never imagined, so I was telling your brother today, like, out of all the things you could have said to me today, son, that was not on the list. Like, my brother is in town, and he effing loves me. And he didn't say that, nothing. He just said, your mom. And so it all day long, it's just been this thing like it matters. And even though at times you feel separated, you're still connected.
That invisible string. I feel like when we were kids, you gave us the whole analogy with like, I have 10 pencils together. Take one out and break it. You can do it in a second, but then all 10 together, like how hard is it to break that? So I think it's like, even though you have different circumstances or different even lifestyles or different morals or whatever it may be, it's like, you're still connected. You can't change, no matter what you do, you can't change who's your blood. You can't change who.
No, and nor do you want
And
to.
nor- yeah, and I
We
think it's
need
just-
that, yeah.
I think it's that like connection that you have that I think is like that unconditional love. And sometimes you need to love someone from afar. It's like, hey, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my aunt, uncle. Like, I love you, but I need to love you from afar during this situation, and that's going to ebb and flow, and that's life, and that's what makes relationships beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that the reason I believe everything works for a purpose and it all serves us, I think it was for us to talk about today. And it just brought me back down to, of course, you are my daughters, you know, and I'm fortunate and lucky to be able to do life with you, as we talked about in, I think it's called what is it called? The advertisement or whatever we do before the show starts. I can't think of it, I'm sorry, my brain. But we do life together. Not only am I your mother and a phone call, but we actually do life together. And I don't take that lightly. I feel like it's a gift that we get to do this life together. And yet we get to step away, as you said earlier, when needed. And each one of you are responsible for the choices and stuff in your life. But it's just reassuring that even for our listeners out there, and only you know the situations that you're in, but for those relationships that probably feel like there's no hope, you'll never get them back, or you never want to see them again, but they're your family members, or I don't know how to forgive them, or I can only imagine the millions of scenarios out there. I'm a living specimen of a scenario, and I don't want to talk about the situation, but it wasn't just some little thing. It was a very serious separation from my brother, and I didn't even bother to pray that it would heal. Sometimes I feel guilty, like I just accepted it, right? And then to know that he's still, you know, I feel like there's hope. And I feel like I'm telling you, our listeners, like, you know, what is it? A phone call. Lucky us that we have phones and emails and text messages. We don't have to get a little pigeon and tie a note on its foot and send it and hope it makes it over to your family, you know. And we can hide behind a screen if we still feel too tender to see someone's expression of disappointment or anger because of our choices or mistakes or whatever, that we can send something saying, I'm thinking about you, or whatever everybody's inspired. I just think that we have every excuse to be connected, yet everything tries to pull us apart. But I don't know, I just feel in such awe and gratitude, and I just thought it'd be fun to talk about that. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I had something.
You don't have to raise your hand. You guys just tell me to shut up and talk.
Something that kind of came up for me when you were saying all that is how it's like you can see it as a negative. Like I'll just use me and my husband's example, but like he'll have hardships with his family, and he's almost like too close to it, where it's like really painful or whatever. To have me, like I look at his family, if there's some sort of boundary that they're crossing or whatever. For me, being like one step removed, it's so easy for me to just like set that boundary, to be like, oh, just say no.
I'm not to call after 8 o'clock
Yeah,
at night.
like whatever,
No big
like
deal.
it's
Or
easy.
whatever.
I'll say it, you know, and it's just because I of course don't have like 26 years of knowing these people. And you could see that as like a negative, but it's actually a positive, because I don't think you should be writing off people for like doing one thing wrong, you know? So like this, like, the ties that you're talking about. Whoa, I don't like everybody looking at me.
Oh, okay, well, like, but I want to hear you. Okay.
Look, too much attention.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that was it.
Oh, that was beautiful. And I think what you brought up, I think is really cool too, is that in relationships, but even, of course, there's this husband and wife, but even like, since we're talking about me as you, even my own children helped me see it differently, you know, or like you in your relationship with your husband, or vice versa. You're the other set of eyes. It's not so close to the fire, yet you see like, oh, okay, like you say, they're worth keeping and building. And you come from such a tight family. He comes from such a tight family. And now you guys have this big family that you get to do the dance of life with.
Yeah.
Or, what was I gonna say? Just thinking about you and when you left, and if you cared about everyone's opinion of all your brothers and everything, you would have stayed forever. If you were trying to please them, or trying to just be in the family and not do something to rock the boat of the family, you would have been there forever. But you had to be down on your narrow because you're a mom, and the only thing you're focusing on is me and my children's safety. Let's get out of here.
Right.
So it's like that. You had to block out all of that. It's like you have to just focus on what is important to you.
Yeah,
and
maybe you
give
stepped
your-
on someone's toe on the way. But
Imagine
kind of,
if you'd been like, "Oh no, I gotta get off his toe." You wouldn't have left.
I wouldn't
You
have been
had
able
the
to.
mama brain of like, okay, narrow. I see this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna take my family out of there, and then I will deal with the consequences afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's what you're dealing with now.
Well, even for you guys, though, now you're bringing that point up. So I've seen every single one of you girls that's sitting on this couch, plus all other 5 that are not here. I've seen each one of you have to do the same. Have to kind of like know that I love them. They're secure. That's my family, mom, and whoever this was, and kind of say, I have to focus on what it is that I want to do, whether it's what you believe, how you'll eat, where you'll live, who you'll marry, what you believe in. You have to focus on that, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful to see that we're still connected. And I think we talked about it, if not on one of our shows, we talked about the secret sauce to making all of this happen is that we love each other, yet we respect each other where we're at. And we, even though we have disagreements or we may not agree with different things that, oh, I don't like to wear pink on Sunday or whatever it is, we respect that. That's okay, but I like to wear pink on Sunday, I guess, or whatever it is, right? And I feel like that is the secret sauce when you have learned that each person has a God-given right to experience their life and make their decisions. Obviously, when you're 1 and 2 and you wanted to cut all your hair off and have ice cream for dinner, well then no, you couldn't make those decisions. But as you've grown, that's the beautiful part about being a parent. It can be hard if I made it about me. No, I want you to be a ballerina dancer, and I want you to be a lawyer, and I want, if you make it about, the illusions of motherhood, well then sure. But when you children, all 9 of my children have taught me who you are. And my mom told me something years, and I've said this to you. Your children are not who you think they are. And I'd say, what? I know my kids. What do you mean? Nope, they're not who you think they are. And that has been proven 1,000 times. They are who they are, and they are introducing themselves to me every day. Oh, Mom, look at, whatever I've learned from this little one, whatever you share with me, whatever you teach me, whatever you tell me, I'm learning from you guys, and I'm hoping that I can bring a little bit of my wisdom from whatever I did when I was raising the kids. But even that is hard because no one uses mud packs and garlic enemas anymore. The secret.
I almost wanted to try garlic enemas for my kids, but I didn't want to traumatize them because I blocked that out in my memory. I don't remember that.
Well, good. You guys were all little. Good. Whew, dodged that bullet.
I just remember eating spoonfuls of garlic.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
my only
Yeah,
Yeah.
we still do that.
Yeah. Well, in Mexico, because of it's a third world country where we lived, right? Outhouses and flies and everything. Everybody, all the kids up to the age of about 6 would get sick twice a year, deathly sick, with diarrhea and vomiting. And Dad didn't believe in doctors. There was no doctor, so I had to turn to homemade remedies. And garlic enemas worked for any kind of, like an antibiotic for infection. Mud packs worked for bronchial pneumonia,
Yeah.
I do remember
anything
the
like
mud
that.
packs.
I
Yeah.
don't think I've-
And golden seal and all those other little things that we used. It worked. You guys
we
were
still
all
use that.
We're all healthy.
you all grew up healthy and you survived no scars and no severe doctor visits. But so like I was saying, and even I teasingly say, unless you can use those things, but truly there's a sense that a mom has. I don't know who I was talking to the other day, and I'll say something to one of the girls or talk about something, then later the day will go on, and then Rick will say, how did you know that? And I said, I really didn't even know I knew it. He says, what? And I said, no, I didn't know I knew it until it came out of my mouth. That's the first time I ever even heard it. So there's something to be said about, growing old and being connected. And I'm thankful for the opportunity that you guys still love me and honor me. Well, yeah, of course you love me, but I mean, you honor me and you want me in your lives, and I'm still valuable, because I think that's the biggest fear of getting old. And I'm not gonna say for myself because it's really not there, but I've seen glimpses of it that you end up being obsolete. Like I was just talking to the mother of the groom, and she was emotional, and that's what's coming up. Like, they're not going to need me anymore. And like this fear that you're done. And these people that you raised were your whole life and you've identified. And I
It's a
just
weird
said,
season probably to.
yeah, but it's not the case.
Yeah.
She's the one who made me an empty nester, and it was hard for the first year or two. Obviously, you moved out before you got married, but still, it was hard. But now she's just taught me so much more. She's taught me so much more, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity. Thank goodness she flew the Cooper. I wouldn't have learned these lessons. But my point of, and I probably talked way too much this time, but I'm sorry, but not really. But my point of this whole thing was like, never underestimate the power of healing, and that can be, neighbors, family members. I just believe that, and it will be not on our timing. I always say it's on God's timing, but it's not on our timing. And I'm still in awe that, and my brother doesn't even know I know this. My brother doesn't know I'm on this, probably never watched this podcast. Know that I'm actually here just in awe, and I feel humbled and honored, like my brother is still F-wording, loves me, and he was just little when I left home, but it just brought me to thinking about family, and maybe it's more a little serious after our last couple. They were so funny, but this is just what was on my mind, and I thought, well, I want to talk about it because it's up here and I can feel it. And whether you have children or you're married or not, you still have family. I've heard so many people say, no, I'm alone, I don't have anybody, and I can't imagine what that feels like. But I feel like we're connected, even if we're not connected by blood, we're connected by humanity, and never take that for granted. There's lonely people out there that needs a smile or need to know they've been seen or loved on, It's been my goal for over 20 some odd years to try, I don't always do it, to make people feel seen and that they matter for the few seconds I get to.
I feel like you're really good at that.
Yeah,
When
you are.
at a restaurant or something, I feel like wherever you're really good at that for sure.
Definitely, I see that too.
They say that you give what you always needed. Maybe I felt like I was unseen and unheard most of
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah.
So no one could feel that way. But anyways, this was a little more serious, but it was a lot of fun. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
I was gonna say, so we're talking about family, and I think what keeps us close is like we're all so different, really. If you look at us all, it's like, how do we all come from the same parents, and we're all so different in our own ways. And I feel like that's what's the beautiful thing about sisters. It's like your friends. It's like you have to have something in common with them to want to spend time with them outside. It's like your sisters. Who cares? We could be complete opposite, but it's like that love and that bond that you have. It's like no matter what you're into, even if I don't understand about it, it's like I care. I want to know because I love you and you love this, so I love it too. So I really think that's a benefit of having.
Five little sparks in a world so cold. Mama's hands build dreams from cold.